I was on World's Strictest Parents when I was 15. When I was 15, my dad signed me up for the TV show World's Strictest Parents. Yeah, that show where, out of control, teenagers get sent to live with extremely strict families so they can learn discipline. My dad's reason? He said I was disrespectful, apparently rolling my eyes when he lectured me. Counted as a serious attitude. Problem. And sometimes, I wore hoodies instead of the polo shirts he liked. That was it. Meanwhile, the other kids on the show were doing drugs, stealing cars, skipping school for months. You know, actual trouble. My biggest crime? Blasting Linkin Park too loud in my room while drawing in my sketchbook. But to my dad, that meant I needed to be fixed. So suddenly I'm on a plane, cameras in my face, producers asking dramatic questions like I'm some kind of rebellious criminal. Inside, I kept thinking, what am I even doing here?
The first night at the host family's house was brutal.
They took everything. My phone, my headphones, even my sketchbook. The host mom held it up and said, art is a distraction from discipline. Then they made me scrub the kitchen, floors until midnight while cameras filmed every second. I remember thinking, this has to be a joke. On the second day, the host dad, a former Marine, did the classic TV moment. He got inches from my face yelling about responsibility and how I'd end up in prison if I didn't change my life. But the weird thing was, I wasn't scared. I was just confused. I'd never even had detention. The other teens on the show started noticing it too. One kid pulled me aside and said, bro, why are you here? And honestly, I didn't have an answer. But the moment that changed everything happened during a break in filming. One of the cameramen, a guy named Rob, quietly walked over and handed me a bottle of water. He looked around to make sure no producer was nearby and whispered, kid, you don't belong in this circus. I laughed a little, thinking he was joking, but he shook his head. Then he said something I'll never forget. I saw your intake notes. You get straight A's. You do community theater. No record, no suspensions, nothing. Then he asked, why did your dad send you here? For the first time that week, someone actually asked me that. So I told him the truth. I told him how my dad believed a real man had to act a certain way. No black clothes, no rock music, no dark drawings. He hated anything that didn't fit his idea of perfection. And he thought putting me on national TV would humiliate me enough to make me change. Rob just stared at me for a second. Then he quietly said, that's not discipline, kid. That's control. Later that night, they were filming one of those staged confrontations where the strict parents call out the teenager's behavior. The Marine dad started his speech like usual, but halfway through, something changed. He looked through the glass window where my dad was watching with the producers, and he said something that made the entire room go silent. He pointed at me and said, your son isn't broken. Then he pointed toward the observation room. You're just trying to break him. Producers started panicking, waving their hands to stop filming, but it was too late. The other strict parents started agreeing with him. You could feel the tension in the room. My dad stormed out furious, yelling that I'd embarrassed him on national television. A few weeks later, the producers called and said my episode wouldn't air. Technical issues, they claimed. But honestly, I think they just didn't want that moment on TV because it didn't fit the story they were trying to sell, but something good did come out of it. That moment gave me the courage to finally move in with my mom, the one parent who actually supported who I was. She bought me a new sketchbook the day I moved in, and she told me something simple that stuck with me. Being a good parent doesn't mean controlling your child. It means understanding them. Looking back now, the best advice I got that whole week didn't come from the strict parents. It didn't come from the producers. And it definitely didn't come from my dad. It came from a cameraman standing behind the lens who saw the truth when nobody else wanted to. And honestly, I still think about that moment sometimes. So I'm curious, do you think my dad was trying to help me or just trying to control me?